Have you ever felt lost in a fog of doubts, with your mind full of contradictory voices? The voice of logic, the voice of fear, the voice of desire, the voice of others, all screaming at the same time, making it impossible to hear the only voice that truly matters, your own. It's like trying to tune into a sacred radio station, the frequency of your soul, but only being able to hear the static of 1,000 crossed conversations, a mental noise that leaves you exhausted and paralyzed. Making a decision becomes torture. Trusting yourself seems impossible. And what if I told you that in the next 48 hours, the cosmos is about to silence all that static? What if I told you that the universe is preparing to transmit a signal of pure, direct, and crystalline clarity to the center of your being? Prepare yourself. On Thursday, July 31st, we will experience one of the rarest, most potent, and sacred portals of mental clarity of the year, the Mercury Kazimi in the heart of Leo. This is an event that ancient astrologers considered a moment of prophecy, of divine revelation. It is the instant when Mercury, the planet of our mind and our perception, is invited to a private audience on the throne of the sun, the center of our identity and our life force. For a brief and magical period, our mind stops being our critic, our source of anxiety, and becomes our oracle. The answers you desperately seek in the outer world, in readings, in gurus, in the opinions of friends, will be available with unquestionable clarity in the sanctuary of your inner world. What follows is not a guide on how to think. It is a guide on how to receive. It is a preparatory manual so that you can become your own oracle and channel the sovereign wisdom of your own heart. Together, we will learn to purify the channel, to formulate the sacred question, and to create the silence necessary to hear the answer that already lives inside you. Most people will pass through this portal without even noticing. They might feel a flash of inspiration in the middle of the day, a brilliant idea that comes and goes, lost in the noise of routine. They will feel the signal, but they will not have the antenna prepared to capture it. But not you. By preparing today and tomorrow, you will be building that antenna. You will be polishing your inner mirror to reflect the light of truth without distortion. To become an oracle, we must first understand the nature of the noise that prevents us from hearing. We need to diagnose the static, the chaos, and the war of voices that takes place in our restless mind. But this noise that prevents us from hearing our inner oracle is not a single sound. It is a cacophony. It is a chaotic assembly of voices within our psyche, each with its own agenda, its own fear, and its own desire. To understand the noise and learn to silence it, we first need to give a face to these voices, to these archetypal characters that inhabit the stage of our mind and compete for control of our narrative. The first voice, and often the loudest and most decorated in our society, is that of the rational skeptic. It sits in the prosecutor's seat. Its stated intention is noble, to protect you from disappointment, from failure, and from ridicule. But its main tool is relentless doubt. When your heart has an idea, when a glimpse of intuition, a pre-signal of the Kazimi's clarity arises in your consciousness, it is the skeptic that stands up and says, "That's not practical. What's the data? What's the proof that this will work? This is too risky." Remember the last time you tried something similar. It lives in the world of logic, of provable facts, and of past experience. And it is deeply suspicious of everything that comes from the invisible realm of faith, of feeling, and of intuition. It is the guardian of your comfort zone, and it will do everything to keep you there, even if that comfort zone has become a prison. In direct opposition to the skeptic, in the defense attorney's seat, sits the desperate optimist. This is the voice of magical thinking, of a positivity that borders on denial. It longs so much for the solution, for salvation, that it clings to any glimpse of hope, no matter how unrealistic. Faced with a problem, it says, everything will work out. The universe will provide. Don't think about the negative, just vibrate positively. But its optimism is often not based on a deep and anchored faith, but on the abject fear of pain and discomfort. It uses hope as a shield to avoid facing the complexity of reality, to avoid having to do the hard work that Saturn demands. It is the voice that leads us to seek gurus who promise easy solutions, to jump from one manifestation technique to another, always seeking the magical shortcut that will spare us from the process of real growth. And finally, filling the entire courtroom gallery, there is the deafening choir of the echo of others. This is not a single voice, but hundreds, perhaps thousands of voices internalized throughout your life. They are the voices of your parents, your teachers, your bosses, of society, of the experts you follow on social media. You should do this. The right thing to do is that. People like us don't do things like that. To succeed, you need to follow these 5 steps. This is the voice of tradition, of expectation, of collective common sense, which with its constant noise often completely drowns out the small, unique, and silent voice of your own soul, the only one that knows your true path. The skeptic, the optimist, and the echo. This is the chaotic assembly that governs the restless mind. And in the midst of all this noise, the true message of the oracle, the pure clarity of the Kazimi, desperately tries to be heard. The portal that opens this week is not about giving yet another voice to this debate. It is not about the optimist finally defeating the skeptic. It is about silencing all of them with gentleness and authority, so that the only voice that matters, the voice of your sovereign heart, can finally speak and be heard without distortion. And how can this voice be heard? How does the pure signal of the oracle manage to cut through the cacophony of the mental assembly we described? The answer does not lie in fighting against the voices, in trying to defeat the skeptic or silence the echo. The answer lies in tuning into a frequency so powerful, so pure, and so central that it simply overrides all the others, like the sound of a great bell that silences all the noise of the marketplace. This frequency is that of the Kazimi. To understand its power, we need to delve into the sacred mechanics of our inner solar system, getting to know the 2 architects of this revelation. The first and most important is the sun, in the sign of Leo. At the center of our being, just as at the center of our solar system, resides the sun. It is not just a planet, it is the star, the source of all life, all light, all warmth. In our psyche, the sun represents our purest identity, our core of consciousness, our purpose, our life force, the unshakable I am that exists behind all the masks and characters we play. It is our inner divinity, our creative spark, and the sign of Leo is its throne, its kingdom, the only place in the entire zodiac where the sun reigns in its absolute glory without filters, without needing to adapt. Leo is the domain of the heart, not just the physical organ that pumps blood, but the heart as the center of courage. The word courage comes from cœur, heart in French. It is the center of creativity, of passion, and of authentic expression. The call of Leo is for us to be the sovereigns of our own heart, radiating our unique light out to the world with generosity, joy, and a confidence that is not born from arrogance, but from a deep knowledge of oneself. The truth of the sun in Leo is not a logical truth. It is a truth that is felt. It is the deep resonance of a yes or a no that vibrates in our chest. It is the song of our soul. This is the voice that our inner oracle channels. The second architect is Mercury, the messenger. He is our processing system, the scribe, the translator who transits between the world of the soul and the world of matter. He is our logical mind, our ability to learn, to communicate, to make connections, to give names to things. His sacred function is to take the vast and at times chaotic and non-verbal wisdom of the universe and of our heart and translate it into a language we can understand, articulate, and use. Without the clarity of Mercury, our deepest feelings would remain an ocean without a map. However, as we saw in the last chapter, this brilliant messenger can be co-opted. He can be hijacked by fear, which is the voice of the rational skeptic. He can be seduced by fantasy, the voice of the desperate optimist, and he can be dominated by the noise of social programming, the echo of others. When this happens, he stops translating the heart's truth and starts creating his own narrative, the static that confuses and paralyzes us. The Kazimi is the celestial event that realigns the messenger with the king. For a brief and sacred moment, on Thursday, the sun pulls Mercury into its heart. It does not burn it, as it would if Mercury were just nearby. It purifies it. It baptizes it in the fire of the heart's truth. During the Kazimi, the mind, Mercury, stops being governed by fear, by fantasy, or by external logic. It is immersed in the pure intention of the heart, Sun in Leo. For a few hours, the messenger and the king are one. The mind speaks with the authority, the clarity, and the unquestionable truth of the heart. The noise of all the other voices in the assembly is silenced, not by force, but because the frequency of the sovereign heart becomes the only one that matters, the only one that is real. This is the architecture of the oracle. It is the purification of our mind by our heart. It is the opportunity to receive a download of clarity that does not come from analysis, but from the soul. It is your chance to hear the answer to your most important question without the interference of fear or doubt. Understanding this divine portal is the first step. But how do we prepare ourselves to receive this message? How do we open our channel so that the oracle's voice can flow unimpeded and be registered in our consciousness? For that, there are the practices of reception. And these practices are our part in the cosmic agreement. The universe opens the Kazimi portal, but we need to prepare our inner temple to receive its light. We cannot receive a divine message in a vessel full of noise, of clutter, and of confused intentions. What follows, therefore, is not a to-do list, but a process of purification and attunement in 3 phases. It is your sacred preparation for the audience with the king, for the consultation with your inner oracle. The first phase is the most crucial. Before we can hear the oracle's voice, we need to silence the cacophony of the mental assembly. We need to empty the cup so that it can be filled with the crystalline water of truth. This is the purification of the channel. Start with an act of externalization. Take your journal. In the next 2 days, before Thursday's Kazimi, dedicate 10 to 15 minutes to a mind dump. Write non-stop and without filters everything that is on your mind. The grocery list, the worry about work, yesterday's conversation, the fear about the future. Do not try to organize or make sense of it. Just empty it out. This is the act of taking out the trash and the old furniture from the throne room so that the king can sit. After the mind dump comes the energetic purification. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and let's do a simple but profoundly effective breathing practice to calm the nervous system. It is the 4-7-8 breath. Inhale silently through your nose, mentally counting to 4. Hold the air in your lungs, counting to 7. And then exhale slowly and completely through your mouth with an audible whoosh sound counting to 8. Repeat this cycle for at least 5 times. This breath is a natural tranquilizer for the nervous system. It signals to your body that it is safe, silencing the alarm of fear and the static of anxiety. In the silence that follows your breathing practice, place a hand on your heart and silently affirm, "I am open and receptive to my highest truth. My channel is clear and ready." With the channel purified, we move to the second phase. An oracle is only as good as precise as the question that is asked of it. A vague question receives a vague answer. A question born from fear receives an answer that feeds the fear. This phase is about the art of the formulation of the sacred question. The clarity you seek depends on the clarity of your question. Dedicate some time today or tomorrow to meditate on what you really want to know. The answer to which question would change the course of your life, bring peace to your heart, or illuminate your next step. To formulate your question, follow 3 rules. First, make it an open-ended question. Don't ask, "Should I accept this job?" That is a yes or no question that limits the wisdom. Instead, ask, "What do I need to know about this job for the greater good of my evolution?" Second, make it an empowering question. Avoid victim questions like, "Why does this always happen to me?" Reframe it to, "What is the lesson this pattern is trying to teach me so that I can free myself from it?" Third, and most importantly, make it come from the heart. The question must resonate with your deepest yearning, not your superficial anxiety. Write this single, sacred question on a clean page of your journal. This is the key you will bring to the oracle's door. Finally, we arrive at the third phase, the ritual of deep listening. This is the act to be performed during the peak of the Kazimi's energy on Thursday, July 31st. Find your moment of stillness. Read your sacred question out loud so the universe can hear it. And then, close your eyes or pick up your pen for automatic writing. Your only task now is to receive. The answer may not come as a complete and logical sentence. The oracle speaks the language of symbols, of intuition. It might come as a clear image in your mind. It might come as a single word that echoes in your consciousness. Trust, freedom, patience. It might come as an overwhelming feeling of peace that tells you everything is okay, or a wave of energy that impels you to act. It could be a forgotten memory that suddenly shows you the origin of a pattern. Do not dismiss anything. Do not analyze. Just write down, draw, record the first thing that comes. The Kazimi speaks first. The analysis of Mercury comes later. The moment of the portal is for pure and non-judgmental reception. Purify the channel, formulate the question, and receive the answer. This is the sacred process to become your own oracle. It is the training that takes you out of the audience and places you on the center stage of your own wisdom. And when the message arrives, when the blinding clarity of the Kazimi illuminates your soul, the work does not end. In fact, it is just beginning. For with great clarity comes great responsibility. The responsibility to protect and nurture this new truth. And with this question, what will you do with this new truth? Zriniya, this week's journey reaches its point of transmutation. The fundamental transformation that the Kazimi portal offers you is the passage from being a pilgrim to becoming the sanctuary itself. It is the realization that the temple you are seeking out there, in gurus and external oracles, has always been within you. To live from this inner sanctuary is to live in a state of radical trust, where the anxiety of doubt is replaced by the calm of connection, and your own clarity becomes your most reliable compass. For this transformation to become real, let me tell you one last story, the parable of the two kings. The first king ruled a bright and sunny kingdom. He was loved by his people, applauded for his generosity, and admired for his eloquent speeches. His castle was magnificent. His feasts were legendary. But this king had a secret. In the center of his castle, there was an ancient temple with a silent oracle, and he never visited it. He had a deep fear of what the oracle might tell him, a fear that the oracle's silent truth would contradict the louder claim of the crowd. So he ruled based on the opinions of his counselors, on the news from neighboring kingdoms, and above all, on his desire to maintain the applause of his people. His kingdom was beautiful on the surface, but fragile, built upon the sand of others' opinions. The second king ruled a quieter kingdom in the mountains. Some considered him reclusive, even strange. His castle was not the most opulent, but his secret was the source of his unshakable power. Every morning, before making any decision, before speaking with any counselor, he would enter the temple in his castle and sit in silence before his inner oracle. He would ask his question and wait for the answer, which often came not in words but in a feeling, an image, a certainty. His decisions were not always the most popular, but they were always the wisest and truest. His kingdom was not the loudest, but it was the most prosperous, the most resilient, and the most authentic, for it was built on the rock of his own inner truth. The Kazimi portal does not give you a new kingdom. It gives you the key to the temple that the second king visited every day. It reminds you that you were destined to be the second king. Many will feel the flash of clarity from the Kazimi and will treat it as an interesting thought, a passing inspiration that is soon lost in the noise of daily life. They will continue the pilgrimage, seeking outside the treasure that, for an instant, was shining in their own hands. But not you. You have done the work. You have become conscious of your power to channel your own truth. And this is the great fork in the road. To live with this clarity requires courage. It requires the responsibility of no longer being able to deceive yourself or to participate in dynamics that you now know do not honor your soul. To be your own oracle means you lose the luxury of ignorance. Every choice from now on is made with open eyes. And that is true personal authority, not the absence of challenges, but the constant presence of your truth as a guide. If you are ready to honor the oracle that lives within you, to become the source of your own wisdom, seal this sacred intention by liking this video, and to declare to the universe and to yourself this new and sovereign identity, go to the comments section and affirm your power. Write the words, "I am the answer." Feel the vibration of this declaration. It is the end of the search. It is the beginning of the embodiment. And finally, subscribe, because receiving clarity is the first act of power. The next and more challenging is to act on it in the world. The next lunar cycle will be the first great stage for your new authority. The journey from clarity to creation is just beginning.